What's up, guys? Today we're going to go over the Hung Jury, which was one of my favorite scout rifles in Destiny 1 and pretty much one of my most used PvE primary weapons in the entire game. And one thing I want to say is the title, I got inspiration from Dado's video the other day, and I kind of kept that title in mind. I was like, I'm going to use that in a future season because I kind of like it. But then the Hung Jury came out, and honestly it just sums up my thoughts on the weapon in Destiny 2 perfectly. And I just had to use it. So definitely shout out to Dado for the funny title. And anyways, in this video, we're going to be showing off how to get the Hung Jury, going over the god roll for the weapon, and then also making a cool build for PvE. But before we get into any of that cool stuff, a quick word from today's video sponsor. This video is once again sponsored by Wondershare. In the past, we've seen a bunch of different editing softwares for both mobile and PC. This time it's going to be with Dr.Fone, which is a toolkit for any mobile device that can do a lot of things to help you out and save some frustrations. For example, backing up and transferring data between social apps, between your phone and your PC, between a phone and a different phone, and even repairing your system. And as you guys might know, I've had an Android phone for pretty much as long as I've had smartphones. And the feature I want to show off is their Android data recovery software. Pretty much how it works is you download the software on your PC, connect it to your phone, then from there you select what files you want to recover, if that's going to be contacts, messages, audio, photos, whatever it is. Then Dr.Fone will retrieve those files, and from there you can do whatever you want with those files if you need to recover them back onto a new phone, or just have them backed up on your PC. And no matter how you lost the files originally on your phone, if that's from a forgotten password, the screen going out, or even a factory reset, you'll be able to recover them with Dr.Fone. So why waste time and money going to a shop to get your phone recovered or even replaced when you can just do it yourself from your own home with your PC using Dr.Fone? Link will be in the description below. Go ahead and check it out. Once again, thanks to Wondershare Dr.Fone for sponsoring today's video. So this week you can get the Hung Jury from the Nightfall, and we farmed it a bunch on the 1310 and also the Master 1340, and the drop rate seemed pretty similar in both. So it's definitely not worth playing 20 light under in the 1340 right now for a barely higher drop rate when you could just do 1310s a good 5 or 6 minutes quicker and just bang them out left and right. So looking at the perks on this weapon, there's only 6 in each slot, which is pretty good because it'll make it a lot easier to get the exact roll you want. And like usual, looking at the left column perks first, there's gonna be roughly 4 I want to talk about. The first one being surplus, then also rapid hit, the 2 like traditional reload perks on the weapon, and one is going to be better than the other in different situations. So breaking that down, surplus is going to be better overall. The stability isn't that big of a deal because it's a 180 scout rifle, so the recoil isn't that high in the first place, but the reload will be pretty much maxed out if you have all of your abilities, and the handling will be extremely quick also. So it's going to be really good if you're a person that doesn't really spam their abilities, but for someone like me that does, even if you have 2 of your abilities, still going to be pretty much max reload speed. Or even if you only have 1 ability, if you pair that with Scout Rifle Loader, which only costs 1 energy if you take it from the artifact this season, obviously that will still pretty much get you max reload speed. And comparing that to Rapid Hit will be better for harder content where you're just be laying multiple shots at the same target, but for lower tier content where you're going to be swapping between targets very quickly, it just doesn't seem like when you want to reload, you'll actually have a high stack of the buff. So I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest. I think something like Outlaw or Feeding Frenzy would be a lot better. So overall, I might have to give Surplus the nod for just a general reload perk. This weapon also has Bottomless Grief, which got a slight buff this season, which will increase the max size of the weapon. And then when you're the final member of your fire team, every single final blow will completely refill the magazines from reserves. So the buff to this perk pretty much adds 3 bullets to the magazine, which is pretty interesting because the cap of Hung Jury is 20. So even though I have a mag increase, then Bottomless Grief, then, even backup mag on top of that, it will still stay at 20 no matter what. So it's kind of redundant to have that perk. And the other part where it will completely refill the magazine on every kill when you're the final fire team member alive is pretty cool. But just once again, I just don't really think there's gonna be that much uptime on that perk. So that is where Subsistence will come into play, which is in my opinion the best perk in the left slot on this weapon and the one you're going to want to go for. And the way it works on a scout rifle is with a 16 mag, so no mag increases at all. Every single final blow you'll get 2 ammo back, and for most things in the game you're going to be killing things in at least 2 shots. So that means you'll pretty much have infinite ammo as long as you're not missing, and will never have to reload the weapon. So overall, that is why I believe Subsistence is the best perk in the left column and the one you should be looking for. Now moving on to the right column, the first one I want to look at is going to be Wellspring, which will work kind of like Demo, but for any of your abilities. If you're just missing 1 ability, it'll be the exact same as Demo, where it'll take roughly 8 kills to get the full ability back. But the thing about this is it will also spread between all of your abilities you're missing. So if you're missing 2 or even 3 abilities, it'll share that energy equally among them based on your stats. So obviously that will be the best perk for, ability based builds. But I think scout rifles need a little bit extra oomph And there's going to be a lot better options in the right column. For example, explosive payload, which will be one of the better perks for harder content in the game. This perk will only slightly increase your headshot damage on the weapon, but it will increase the body shot damage by quite a lot. Still not quite enough to one-shot body shot a lot of low tier enemies, which is kind of unfortunate, but still this perk is pretty good for harder content where you won't be able to like keep a rampage perk going very easily. So this perk could definitely be useful there and was the top pick in Destiny 1. The next damage increase perk is Adrenaline Junkie, which I went over in yesterday's video, where it'll be based off grenade final blows. And the way this perk works is it'll stack all the way up to ×3. With ×3, it'll be a 33% buff that will last for 10 seconds. If you get a grenade kill within that 10 seconds, it will refresh the timer on the perk and keep ×3 going. But overall, unless you're doing a crazy, grenade build, that is pretty much never going to be worthwhile. But if you are, this could fit in pretty nicely. And that leads me to the better damage perk for pretty much every single situation, and that's going to be one for all. In many ways, it's going to be pretty similar to Adrenaline Junkie. It's going to be a 35% buff, so only 2% more, and it will last for 10 seconds. But instead of getting 3 grenade kills, all you have to do is hit 3 separate targets, and it will activate the buff. So it's going to be a lot better for pretty much everything in the game, especially harder content. You know how earlier I was mentioning you can't really keep up rampage in like GMs? Well, one for all is something you could easily proc, and even the most difficult of hard content in the game. So that is why it is by far the best damage perk on this weapon, and pretty much the only one you should be looking for. But that leads me to the final perk I want to talk about, the most important one, Firefly. In this game, precision kills with this weapon increased reload speed and causes the targets to explode, causing solar damage to nearby enemies. So first I want to test the part about reloading. Without it, it takes over 2 seconds. Now if we go ahead and get a precision final blow, go ahead and reload again, it's going to be roughly 0.6 seconds faster, which is quite a good chunk off the reload speed. But more importantly, whenever you get a precision final blow, it'll cause that solar explosion, which is pretty much on par with Dragonfly plus Dragonfly spec out of the box. It honestly feels extremely strong, and it's really nice to have a kinetic weapon with, Firefly again. And yes, I'm going to test if it works with Dragonfly spec. There is no reason to believe it would work with Dragonfly spec, but we can go ahead and test for you guys. And if we go ahead and look at the damage on Carl, without it, it hit 5376. Then with the spec on, once again, it hits for 5376. So it did not go up in damage, which it shouldn't have. But the thing that will cause it to go up in damage is going to be energy accelerant whenever it gets re-enabled, and that will double the damage of Firefly. So overall, a god roll on this weapon is pretty much just subsistence with one for all or Firefly, and that is pretty much the 2 roles you want to go for. Now, if you want to trade out subsistence for, rapid hit or surplus for some different situations, that is fine. But that is pretty much the 2 roles you want to go for, and they're extremely strong. They're both pretty good, and those 2 roles definitely make Hung Jury one of the best PvE scouts in the entire game. So now making a build that makes it a little bit better for PvE, starting off with a Solar subclass. You can do top tree for movement or middle tree for, well, radiance and things like that. Then also we have Hung Jury with Firefly, and I did not take off Dragonfly spec. Let me do that real quick. Back to minor spec. Then I have the Empty Vessel, which is the new Solar GL with whatever perks you want, because it is solar. Then I also have the Deathbringer on for that single target damage. And now looking at the exotic armor piece of choice, we're going to be using Chromatic Fire, which, because we're on a solar subclass, that will give us pretty much 2 Firefly-like explosions on every single precision final blow with the Hung Jury. And that means we can make a lot of Warmind cells, so using Wrath of Rasputin to create Warmind cells from solar explosions. Then we also have Global Reach and Rage of the Warmind for that Holy Trinity and that endless cycle of Warmind cells once we get the first one to spawn in. And finally, the last 2 mods are pretty much up to you. You can use something like Incinerating Light to become Charge of Light every single time we get rapid kills with the Warmind cell explosions. Then the next mod could be whatever mod you want to take advantage of the stacks of Charge of Light. Or you can use something like Warmind's Decree because we're using the Deathbringer. And in that case, I'll change the other mod to something like Fireteam Medic or just some other Warmind Cell perk. And pretty much the whole point of this build is just Warmind Cells all over the place. All 3 of our weapons can spawn them in. Then once you get one to spawn in and detonate it, it will then spawn in more from its own kills. And you guys know how builds like this work, so just moving on from that. Just my overall thoughts on Hung Jury in Destiny 2. Honestly, the title pretty much sums it up. It is a scout rifle. Although it does have extremely good rolls that make it pretty good and one of the best scout rifles in the game, it's still just a scout rifle. As you'll see in some of this gameplay at the end, there are multiple situations where even if I have one for all and minor spec my weapon, I still can't one hit, a basic red bar enemy in a map version strike. Like, that is kind of stupid. Scouts definitely need a damage buff in PvE, and this season would have been the perfect opportunity to do so with things like the Hung Jury coming back. So I don't know why Bungie didn't take advantage of that because it would have been so hyped to have, you know, Hung Jury back and have it feel like it did in Destiny 1, but for whatever reason they decided not to. I don't know if they think scouts are in a good place. The only way I can see them thinking scouts are fine in PvE is because they have more range than, you know, like hand cannons or SMGs. But in my opinion, range is not a good bouncing point for PvE because of the fact that outside of like the hardest of hardest content in the game, you can pretty much just get right in front of everything in the game and easily survive it. So those, you know, close range weapons which have way lower kill times, for example SMGs, are just way better than scout rifles in PvE. And pretty much the only place scouts will be used or in like GM Nightfalls when you're way under light, but outside of that they just don't feel good compared to a lot of the other options in the game. And that's why even though Hung Jury is extremely strong for a scout rifle, there just simply is way better options in PvE in the game right now. And if you're a person that uses scout rifles in PvE, more power to you, and you'll probably love this theme. One of the saving graces for Hung Jury will be the energy accelerant plus Firefly this season for that double Firefly damage, and that will be really strong and make it feel extremely good. But once the season's done, obviously that'll be leaving and it'll just be back down to normal. Anyways, I think I said all I wanted to say about Hung Jury. You know, it is literally a scout rifle. Anyways, like usual, let me know what you think about the Hung Jury right now. Thanks for watching. Catch you guys next time.